Welcome, Ian. How you doing, man?
Thanks, JD. Nice to see you.
Good, man. We've been trying to set this up for quite a while, and unfortunately, nature decided you had work otherwise.
Well, nature also started pouring down on us, so we we had to do some last minute planning. So I've been unavailable for a couple of weeks
It's been
now.
hectic. My cousin lives over in Paul, and they had rain coming in everywhere. He just set up like his butchery is about a month and a bit old, and
Yeah.
it like he almost had quite a bit of water damage. Luckily, he was slightly elevated where some of the other companies. He sent me videos of him driving deep in the rain, and I know you guys had a bit of rain as well. Where I live here in Oudtshoorn, we didn't have too much damage. It's just the river coming down, and then it goes over the bridges in town. So yeah, but I mean, you guys had a hectic. Now tell us a bit. Let's kick off with that, seeing as that is the most recent event. What
With
exactly
the
did
rain.
you do? Yeah, with the rain. What exactly did you do?
Well, you can actually see behind me. It's about to start raining again. So
Welcome to the
just
garden
when we
route.
thought, just when we thought we were through it, it's kind of starting again. Um, but just to paint you the picture, we were our business, and we'll get onto it later, is in hiking trails, and facilitating hiking trails. So we were out with a whole lot of guests, and before they got here, this was 2 weeks ago. Before they got here, the it had been raining like crazy here in Plett, and it's the ground is so sodden with water that it's literally coming up through the tar. Like the tar is, it's not damaged so much. I haven't seen too much damage, but even the tar is kind of wet.
Yes.
Not puddles, but just
Yeah.
wet. So it's sodden, right? Um, but as you go further up, where there's any dirt roads, it's just full. Like the ground is full. So any more water on the top just piles up. Um, and even walking high up in the mountains, in the plantations, you're finding it's sludgy, but high up, and you expect it to sort of drain further down through the mountain. But it's almost like, for me, and I don't understand geology, but it's almost like the whole mountain is full of water, you know?
Yeah.
And so if you pour some more on, it's got nowhere to go except just turn the soil into sludgy stuff.
Yeah, the earth is saturated at the
So
moment.
it's saturated, but it's gorgeous, man. Not so long ago, there was no water here. So and there were droughts and things. So it's a
Yeah.
cycle for me, it's a cycle of life.
Well, they said so. So it's got I think it's a 20-year period where it pivots down, reaches the peak at about 10, and then pivots up and reaches the height of the peak again at the next 10 years. So that's kind of like a cycle that they've pulled out in the past. There's actually some stuff done on it. So we on the incline again. But you guys have quite a bit more rain than us, and it's very interesting because you're actually just over the mountain from us. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, but I think the topology is different here, and I think the proximity to the sea is different, and the proximity to the forests is different, and with the Lungkloof and the Tsitsikamma Mountains forming
Mm.
like a bowl around us. I think there's also an effect there, which I don't understand. I'm not a weather person, but I have no doubt that there's an effect there.
Yeah, it's just the storms pushing in from the coast, and then they fill in and they build up against the mountains. Like you've got the Formosa, which is Formosa is the tallest one in your area, right?
It is. I
Yeah.
can actually see it from here. Um, I don't know if you want me to show you quickly, but it's beautiful. Eh?
Yeah, well, if you can see it, show it because I'm pretty sure you guys hike up it, don't you?
No, we don't hike as
Not.
far as Formosa.
Okay.
No, 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 no. Not as far. But if you have a look, it's in the distance.
There
There
we
you can
go.
see.
The sharp
See
edged
those
one.
mountains?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's the one right on the right-hand side of the screen. My right.
That's it.
That's it there. But if you could see the mountains now, in they kind of bathed in this mist that's coming up from the coast. It's really
Uh,
beautiful.
and that's what I was getting to. I
Really
think
beautiful.
it's called in Afrikaans it's confectionery and confectioneering, something like that. I haven't done this in ages. I did it in my field guiding course, so I should know
Oh, yeah.
this. But
No,
yeah,
listen, that's it was a long time ago. I don't remember what that is either.
no. Okay, awesome. So you were out and about in the rain. What are you doing? Fixing some of the roads, seeing if you can help some of the people that got stuck. What was the situation on your side?
No, no. So remember, our business, it's the Plett Camino. So we do 5-night, 5-day hikes of clients come
So you were
through.
hiking in the rain.
Yeah, and we put on a show for them for 5 days. They have beautiful places to sleep and spend the nights, and they got beautiful trails. So we had clients on the trails.
Oh
Um,
my soul.
yeah. So we had clients on the trails, and of course, it's got to be pleasant. It can't be too unpleasant, but walking in the rain's not so bad. As we say, there's no such thing as bad weather, just bad clothing.
That's it.
But besides that, I mean, if it's cold and wet and miserable, like there's only so much you can take that's fun, and then it becomes not so nice. But it's also safety. Safety is important, So if it's very sludgy and slippery and stuff, you have to be particularly careful about where you send the guests and where you don't send the guests. There can be treacherous pieces, and obviously, their safety is paramount. And then as you cross some of the rivers, the rivers can rise, and they can rise quite quickly.
Mm.
So again, you have to make a judgment call on whether the rivers are safe enough or not. And just by way of example, on the last day was a Friday where they walk and they have to cross a river. And we sent one of our guys, he ran down in the evening before.
Oh.
So he ran down a slope of about 800 meters, very steep slope. And he went down and he had a look at the river, and he was taking photographs of the river in the dusk. I mean, there were a lot of the photos were actually with a flash, but he was measuring the river, and he said it was fine. It was ended up only being about a foot deep. But we weren't sure if it was going to go up or down. So we placed some rocks in the river to measure the height. And then when our guys got down there the next day, they had a look to see if it had come up or come down since then. But it had actually come down a little bit, and it was fine. But having said that, when I left the Crags the night before, I actually drove into a rainstorm coming from the Crags towards Plett. And that's directly in the catchment area of the place we were going to walk the next day. But I drove through a rainstorm that was so bad we had to slow down and put our hazard lights on.
Yes.
It was so bad. Okay, so of course my heart was pounding, thinking, "Damn, we're going to have to reroute again." We'd already rerouted a day before.
Yeah.
So the answer to your question is you really just want to keep going and keep guessing the weather ahead of time, and then finding rain windows. Where if it's really bucketing down, it's really hard to get people motivated to go out there. But if it's a little bit of rain, it's not so bad. Then it's not, it's fine. So we were picking the rain windows as well, sort of leaving a little bit later, leaving it like 10 o'clock. And changing the route slightly to get in by, let's say, 2 o'clock on the one day we knew the rain was coming. And we were pretty much spot on. We were pretty much spot on with the forecasting. I don't know if it's useful to you, but I use and have been using for years is an app called Windy.
Windy, okay.
Yeah, it's well known, but I come from a kite surfing background as well, where we're actually predicting the wind up to into a very short space of time is quite important.
Awesome.
Both from a point of view, you don't want to go all the way out there and have no wind, but at the same time, you don't want to be out there when it suddenly comes bucketing through as a gale. So you want to kind of plan that. And I've always found Windy has been spot on, and it's actually spot on with the rain as well.
Interesting.
So
I used to
it will
use
take an hour.
I use for weather. I use YR, so they know. It's just like a Norwegian one. And
Yes.
when I used to surf, I used to use Magic Seaweed, but that was
Yeah.
never accurate.
No, well, that's the thing. So I don't want to magic seaweed. I also found it was very good for the wave
Yeah.
heights, but the wind was their forecasts were a bit loose. And the other thing is, I don't know for sure, but if YR is in Norway, that's a long way away, man.
Yeah.
You know,
Like I
because
said,
there's a lot of local effects. Hey,
yeah, they changed the website like every half an hour. You go back on, and it's like it's raining today. Oh no, it's not raining today anymore. So it's kind of like, oh, is it? Is it not? So yeah. All right, just quickly. So with that in mind, I want to discuss something. So planning. It's something we as
yes,
guides have to do on the roll. It's not like you do a pre-plan the day before and everything goes according to plan. We are planning often as we are going. Something comes your way and you have to reroute. And the thing is, we also reroute without showing that we are rerouting. I don't know how open or how you discuss with your clients, but we used to keep it like everything is normal, just carry on, and you divert, do something else, do something else. And then at the end of the tour, when everything went well, we're like, you know what, guys, that was hectic. I had to do this and I had to go around this. So we try and keep them calm because you don't want to set a bad mood. And like you said, there's nothing like bad weather. It's usually just your clothes that's wrong. But also the type of clients that you have can make or break the situation. You get people that really are always down in the dumps. The weather's not good. And then you get those people that make the most of it and go out and dance in the rain. So that
yeah,
helps us a
exactly.
lot. That helps us a lot if we have good clients. And then the planning, obviously, I mean, your brain is constantly thinking of, first of all, discussing with the clients what's happening, how, like doing the standard talk, but also in the back part of your brain, you're thinking like, okay, well, this situation isn't ideal. We need to try and revert or go around or do this. So it's interesting that you mentioned that with the way you mentioned that you started off a bit later, catching those rain windows, and then it ends up being more enjoyable for the clients as well, which is the main goal of any tour guiding operation.
Well, I must
Um,
tell you, as we speak now, I'm actually missing the rain window because it's starting to drizzle a little bit. So
oh,
I
planning's
may
been
have to
out.
move. I'll
It's
move.
not
If
end
my,
of the
in
world.
fact, yeah, if my keyboard start, in fact, it's already getting wet. But
You can
just
move
to
in.
answer your
You can
question,
move in.
I'll move while I'm talking, so don't
Okay.
worry. But um, you're right about planning on the fly and giving the guests the experience that they don't know the difference.
Yeah.
Um, there's another thing, certainly I believe that each guest is different, So in one case here, when they did walk in a particularly rainy day, we went and got raincoats for them. And I'll send you some pictures because we'd said don't buy those cheapish raincoats you can get, which are
Yeah.
really like light plastic and they blow around and they're hopeless. Um, so we said you need to buy more expensive ones. And some of the guys came with the cheaper jobs. And so I rushed around Plett trying to find various, much more sort of thicker plastic ponchos. And I'd bought some the day before, particularly for our guides as well, because they didn't have. And I went back and to the shop and they were all gone.
Uh,
So now I had guessed about it go, but there were no raincoats. And I actually found it's interesting. Someone said to me, go and find there's a Chinese shop in town. And they said they may have raincoats. And I walked in there and they had these cheap Chinese jobs, but they were quite thick.
yeah.
And the interesting thing is they only came in purple and bright pink.
I can see here. I've got the picture ahead of
The
front
photographs
of
I
me.
showed you, so you can see them.
Yeah.
So anyway, so we went out there. We said, guys, look, I'm sorry to do this to you, but we have raincoats, but they don't look great. And you know what? The vibe was so cool because they all walked around with these big colored raincoats. And I mean, they certainly wouldn't have got lost in the mountains.
No, I was about to say that's
So
very visual.
yeah, so that was one answer to your question. But the other thing was, you know, the gears that they get as they go is it kind of builds. And we don't want to prescribe. So if someone on the thing says, look, it's too slippery, it's too wet, it's too cold, it's not my scene, we'll carry them around, we'll
Yeah.
drive them around. That's fine. It's their choice. But on that particular day, towards the end of the day, it's a 16K walk. I was feeling quite bad because the road that they would have had to walk along a dirt road was absolutely sodden. Okay, the pastures were just leaking onto the road.
Got the images,
So,
yeah.
yeah, you can see that. So that they
Yeah.
were just, so the roads were just full, you know. And so we went out there in a 4x4 to get them at a point and said, listen, there's, you know, you got 3Ks to go, but it's wet, you know, and, you know, you guys have done so well that, you know, it's okay to get in the car. We'll take you there. And then we had, you know, we had a fire going, and some of them had ordered sort of a massage for that day. So we had the masseuses waiting and everything. And you know that so many of them said, no ways, we're going to finish.
Yeah.
Come hell or high water, we're going to finish. And they took their shoes off, rolled up their pants, and they walked through the water, you know, and the water was at least a foot thick, a foot deep. And they got there, and the sense of accomplishment was incredible, you know.
Yeah.
You know, and after handing them a gin and tonic, they were like, the stories they were regaling were fantastic. So that's how you plan, you know. And just the last point on that is, on one of the days, that in fact that next day, we drove them around an obstacle that would have possibly been a bit treacherous. And we picked a weather window, and one of, you know, the guy who does our routes for us, he sent me a GPX file. And so I loaded that up onto a GPX reader that we use, and literally took everyone for a 12K hike, unsighted, you know. But I'd been there before. I knew the area, but I didn't know each and every turn. But with the GPX reader, it was very subtle to be able to follow that. And that's, I think, part of what you do when you're taking a group is that, you know. So the guides have those, and they can follow a route quite easily.
Yeah,
But the clients know.
the clients know. Yeah. Well, I mean,
No,
like
they
I don't know. Oh, okay, yeah.
I have to move. Sorry, this
No
is getting,
worries. I can actually see the drops falling.
Can you?
Yeah.
It's gonna. Yeah. So that's fine. I think the light's better now anyway. So
Yeah, if it's a duller background in the behind you, it should be standard anyways.
yeah. Sorry about that break there, but
No worries. Like I said,
all
we're
right.
very casual. It's not prim and
Yeah.
proper. We go with the flow, and whatever happens, happens. I
Okay.
don't do scripted things.
Yeah, good.
All right. So just quickly, you mentioned the 16 kilometers. Is that 16 kilometers per trip, or is it 16 kilometers in total for the 5 days?
No. 16 is the whole trip is about 75.
Oh, there we go. Okay, yeah. I was about to say 16. That's not much
So-
because we walk quite
No.
far. All right, now
No,
awesome.
Yeah.
And tell me the trip, is it in the mountains? Is it like, tell us more about the trip and where you're walking to. I want to know.
So JD, it's called the Plett Camino, and we've built it on a 5-day, 5-night kind of experience, because you can go for a day hike. You know, in fact, I walked Robberg twice this weekend. But a day hike is a day hike, you know, and you come back and you've had a day hike. Whereas over 2 days, 3 days, as you get into 3-4 days, you've been out of civilization for a long time, and you start experiencing a change to your own well-being and your own mental faculties, and you start unwinding out of civilization, because a lot of people have come out of an office or a stressful home environment, or a, you know, whatever it might be. So you want to be out there, and our plan is, you know, what we've designed is to really look after you, so you don't have to do anything except hike. So you have beautiful food, you have drinks, you have, you know, if people want a massage like these guys did, we'll get you one. It's fine, you know. And so you can have a really good experience, but also walk. And I think it's important to do physical work.
Yes.
You know, when you physical work, and especially hiking is incredible, because if you compare hiking to trail running or possibly mountain biking, you always have to look down with those sports because otherwise you're going to fall or crash or do something. Whereas with hiking, you can actually look around. So you're not in a hurry. It's more about the journey. And you have the time to look around, or you have guides who can show you something. So they'll show you some trees or some birds or some mushrooms or some views that you might not have seen. So our experience is that, and it's, we call it a Camino because it's I believe it can be a spiritual journey of sorts. It's not the true Camino as you get, but we've written an article on that to kind of show you our understanding. But really, for me, it's a journey to presence. So if you can achieve presence during and then remember presence afterwards, that what the experience was like, then I've kind of achieved my goal, So that's really what we do. So it's 5 nights, 5 days. It's give or take 15 Ks a day. In total, we do 80 kilometers in the 5 days, but 4.5 of that is a game drive across the Plett Game Reserve.
Oh, wow.
So because we need to get across, you obviously can't walk. And so we drive across, which is a fantastic experience. And it's lush and pasture, like it's like a savanna in the middle of it, like it's almost like it should be somewhere else. So you've been walking, and then you have this game drive for 4.5 Ks that gets you across, and then we drop you into the Keerboom's River, which is like the change is quite remarkable, all in one day, and it really enables us to flow. Our the whole hiking experience sort of starts in the Garden of Eden near Neisner, and it does a sort of clockwise sort of semicircle loop all the way up. It ends up in the crags, just near Curland, and Kay and Monty in that kind of area, and then it comes back again to the Keerbooms. So it's almost like you start on, the night one, you're looking at Robberg from the west, looking east towards Robberg, and as you come back home towards the Keerbooms 5 days later, you're looking at Robberg from the other side.
Shit.
And being far away, and you go like, gee, how did I get here? And then you realize you've actually walked all that way.
Yes, it's hectic. You start at Garden of Eden. Is that when you're coming from Neisner, that spot just before Huckaville area, Visantuk, or whereabouts?
Yeah, a bit before that.
A bit before that. Okay,
a bit before that. Yeah, and there's a stunning story there because there's I love these stories that people can experience along the way. There's a stunning story there because we actually started a little bit before that, but we come through there, and there's a guy who he used to work in some coffee shop somewhere, I think, and he's now got himself a coffee station wagon thing that he parks there. So there's that raised section where the cars park.
Yeah.
And he's got his coffee station there. And we came through there, and it had been raining a little bit. And suddenly there were like proper cappuccinos on offer. And we swarmed the coffee thing. And, while maybe the hardcore hikers might say, it's not really how it should be done. Let me tell you, when you've been walking for a few hours through the rain and you come across a cappuccino machine, it's actually quite nice.
Definitely. And
it's actually quite cool to have a cappuccino, bit of sugar in it, and really just chat a bit. It was a fantastic break. And that's his business.
Sorry, no guy.
And that's his business.
Yeah.
Which is also, we do a thing where we try and support local as much as possible. So for us, that was fantastic to have a whole lot of people come through and support him as well. And he's a good guy.
No, it's like and you're talking about like the cappuccino is not part of the experience or not. Or each person has his own opinion on how a certain thing should be done. All right, like to me, camping. Now we go camping in the Bavianskloof. Camping to me is I don't have a tent, I don't have anything. I have the food that I need and the utensils to cook it in, and that's it. You'll have blankets or a sleeping bag, something like that. That's my opinion of what camping is. And then you get people that camp in tents, which is also still cool. I mean, we do it from time to time. And then you get glamping, which is, the air cons in the tent and there's a bathroom in your tent and all that. And it's all for each person, depending on your level. Because I'm a very outdoorsy person. I used to, as a kid, go away for like a weekend. I'll be in the Knysna forest and I disappeared. My parents got used to me not coming home. And that's just,
Really, Jerry?
yeah, I grew up in the Visantuk
On
area
your own.
on my own.
On your
I
own.
used to catch tadpoles and fry tadpoles on a little fire to eat, stuff like that. I was like full on adventure crazy. I loved it.
Jesus.
And then my brother, when he grew up, he'd join from time to time. I had a friend called Louis. He was a bit older than me, like 3 or 4 years older than me. He also joined from time to time. We'd woken up so the one afternoon, we set up our area where we were going to sleep, headed off, and we took our shoes off. So we used to walk barefoot everywhere. I still do it quite often. And put your shoes down, off you go. And we got back, and the baboons had taken a poop in his shoe, like literally in his shoe. So, yeah. But I mean, we loved it, and we'd come across places where, so our trails, we did horse riding trails in the Knysna forest as well, and we'd come across places where the elephants there's like elephant dung. On 2 occasions, one was actually not me, but my dad, and then I was doing a tour in the forest. We came across a place where the elephant had like just peed, like the steam was still coming out. So yeah, that area. I mean, I love the Knysna area, and I definitely, if I had the opportunity, I would move back to Plett Knysna area. We were visiting there. Yeah, man, I told you like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, had a very quick unplanned trip to go there, and I missed it. I went and I saw like all the old people that I used to know. Well, not I didn't get to everyone, but I mean, I worked in the Crags area, so Rocky Roads, Wild Spirit, all those old places. I used to hang out there, all the old hangout spots, and went to.
Come back, man. Come and guide for us, and you can do your podcast from the bush.
Oh, we'll need the setup, but I can do it. I can make it work. We do remote podcasts.
Charging battery.
But just while you talk about that elephant, it's quite interesting. So when we set off the last tour, we got sponsored a bottle of expensive bubbly by Newstead Wines.
Okay.
And I approached them. I said, I want to put a bottle of bubbly up for the first person that spots a Knysna elephant on the tour, right?
Yeah.
So we posted that out there. And do you know that when it was so strange, the timing was so strange that we put it out there. And who knows? Maybe it was a little bit tongue in cheek, but who knows, And then do you know that not even 6 days later, that article came out about the guy who'd gone out there and he'd found the Knysna elephant, the lone Knysna elephant. Yeah. I'm just looking up. His name was Ryan Davey.
Okay.
And Ryan had been out there for, I think it was 12 weeks, looking for it and tracking it down on his own. And doing exactly what you did. Was he was out there sleeping in the forest, and it was a whole mission to go and find it. And he tracked her down,
Yes.
which was fascinating. So of course, I got him on the phone. I said, Ryan, you probably don't know this, but we put a bottle of champers on offer for the first of our people. I said, I know you weren't on the Camino per se. I said, but you know what? What a fantastic job. So we're giving him the champagne instead. Although we'll have another one on offer for our peeps. But yeah, it's just a really nice story. And he's passionate about those elephants. And he, and they're looking, everyone just says shame. They wish they could find a mate for her. Somehow, or a family. I don't know.
Yeah. So that's currently the confirmed story, because when I was there, and I'm talking about back in 2005 and before that, I moved out of Plett or Knysna, the Crags area. I moved out of that area in 2008, but I went to boarding school in 2006. So 2005 was really my last year there. And
Sorry.
I know back then there was discussions because they did some DNA research on the dung sampling and they did tracking, and the numbers kept on bouncing around. And obviously back then I did not have any confirmed sites, or like, nowadays you make sure of your information. Back then it wasn't available to me. But
Yeah.
at a point, there was supposed to be 16 confirmed elephants, and then shortly afterwards,
Gee,
I heard the numbers went down and down. And so, like I said, it's been bouncing around over the years. But that's the last confirmed call, was there's one lone female elephant, right?
yeah, I think that seems to be the last call
Okay, yeah.
for now. Um, and I just hope I don't think any animal should, especially
No,
social animals, should be alone for so long like that, because they are, they're definitely herd animals and family animals. So who knows, stranger things have happened, and maybe they'll get it right, that they can find her a family,
uh,
and reintroduce them. I believe there are some elephants very nearby that would be available. But obviously there's a lot of work that has to go in beforehand. And I don't know the details, and I can't really comment on all that because I don't really know enough about it.
yeah.
But just from a personal perspective, I would love that to happen. I mean, what a joy.
Okay, I want to
Really.
revert something like we mentioned right at the beginning, though, and I forgot to mention it. But you said you come out of a windsurfing background. We were talking about the weather apps and so on.
Yeah.
I don't see much windsurfing happening in Plett. It's more towards Cape Town region.
Kite surfing.
You surf Plett. Kite surfing,
No,
sorry,
kite
kite
surfing.
surfing, yeah, kite surfing. Why, like, this is out of personal curiosity, but why don't people kite surf that much in the Plett area? Or in that area, what is the things that you're looking for when you're looking to kite surf?
Well, kite surfing is an interesting thing. I mean, I've done a lot of kite surfing in Cape Town on the Blouberg side,
Hmm,
and what's interesting about that is the southeaster, we know, is Cape Town's favorite wind. Okay, and it comes flying through there, but it literally flies through. It kind of on the Blouberg Milnerton side, it comes right through from sort of Muizenberg over the Cape Flats, and it goes parallel to the beach, which means that as you're surfing, you can reach in and out. So
uh,
it's one of the most popular destinations in the world, and foreigners come there forever. And then there are also beautiful big waves. So you've got this beautiful thing where you kite surfing, and also what we do is we normally drop a car downwind, and then you can kite surf with the waves all the way down,
okay,
which is really cool. And then you get, drive back. So in Plett, obviously I brought my kites with me, but it's not nearly as windy here. And in Neisner, also not nearly as windy. And it's very much more flat water riding. So on the lagoon here or wherever, I
okay,
don't know the local knowledge yet, but there's also quite a bit further down at Sedgefield at Mamoli, where that you can get back into the sea, and it's good winds and good and good waves. I haven't done that yet either, so I'm looking forward to just sort of discovering that part of the kite surfing scene.
yeah. I was always looking to get into it because it always looked fun to me, but I never saw anyone doing it in the area, and I don't go to Cape Town. I stay out of the big cities. It's like I
Yeah,
don't have a lot of things that I'm afraid of. Like I used to do kickboxing,
yeah.
martial arts. You can put me in front of a rhino and a lion and whatever. I don't mind. But put me in a big city with a lot of people and I start panicking. I get sweats and everything. It's hectic. So
I'm the same here, and I've become like that as I've got a bit older, um, and more so. And I think the energy in the cities is getting more frenetic. I lived in Joburg for a long time, and in Cape Town was where I grew up, so I've lived there a bit. Um, but I'm finding it since COVID, particularly. I think the energies are getting more and more frenetic, and so for me, the call of the forest and this kind of area um, has been it's really calmed me down, and also our whole family's from here, from this Knysna Plett area, so for me it's like coming home eventually as an adult, which is very cool.
awesome.
um yeah uh, yeah
Now I've also got family that side still. And then Mike and M from the Snake Park are like family. I grew up in their house. I started volunteering at the Snake Sanctuary when I was 12, I think. So
wow
yeah, cleaning windows so I can get in for free. And staying in
Yeah.
their backyard. They had a little windy house. So I've been in tourism my whole life. I did my first full guide tour in the Niza Forest horseback safari when I was 11, on our own farm, obviously. And then I
Good.
had a senior backup guide, but I took lead for that. I started doing safaris when I was just 16 at certain game lodges I used to volunteer at. I'd have a game ranger, like an actual adult, drive for me, and then I could do the explaining. And it took time. Like I worked up into it. It wasn't just like they said, "Oh, you can do it." I started first being a caddy, just taking people's luggage back into their rooms, things like that. So from a young age, I knew kind of which direction I wanted to go in, and
Yeah.
made it work. So it's always
Yeah.
interesting, and that's something I actually want to come into. We could discuss it. Is the different avenues to approach becoming not just a tour guide, but entering tourism. All right. How did you start? What was your initial thing of when you realized this is what I want to do?
Well, I'm for my sins, and I say this to people, for my sins, I'm a recovering accountant.
Ah,
Yeah, and I was driven into accounting a long time ago by a family kind of thing to go out there and do stuff and make money and get professional. And in my day, when you went to university, you became a doctor, lawyer, accountant, engineer, maybe, a few other things. And that was it. But frankly, I've lived my whole life trying to find the thing that speaks to my soul. And, you know, accounting is very useful because every business needs that as a background. But in terms of finding an opportunity where you can actually spend more time in nature and feeding your soul. And just the other day, I was walking in the forest with a whole lot of people on that last tour, in fact. And I lagged behind a little bit, and I was just looking at around me at the forest, and in the trees and whatever else. And I thought to myself, this is my office.
yeah,
And it's a really special realization that suddenly that's your office. And sure, we spend lots of time on these laptops and phones and all that stuff. But if that's your office compared to sitting in a building somewhere, churning away at figures and spreadsheets and things, what would you rather do?
oh no, definitely. It's something that I mention to my friends a lot. And funny you should mention accountant. My one friend's an accountant, one of my best friends. He helps me with my books and things like that. But um, we were talking the other day. He's like, he doesn't make a lot of money. Okay, so he's also still very new. He's only 25 or 26 now this year. So he's just getting into it. But he says he doesn't make a lot of money. He works for a boss, and that boss makes a lot of money. What he does is he does the books for other people that do make a lot of money. So he said it's kind of not what he expected. He was like, okay, accounting, it's a good place to make money. And he says so far he's only been seeing other people make money, and he's balancing their books for them. But my
Yeah.
one of my things that I really like is people go and they do these funky jobs, right? So that they can afford to go to nature on their off days and holidays. That's what they do.
Yeah.
Whereas that's
Yeah.
our job. We go out, we make a living by going out and taking these people. So please, guys, don't stop doing what you do and come take over our jobs. We still need you. You're the reason we can do what we do. But you understand, it's such a lovely way of thinking and realizing that what you are doing, other people pay to do on a regular basis. It's so rewarding to think of it like that.
Well, it can be. I don't look at money the same way. I mean, I don't think about people paying and think about these things making lots of money and whatever else. I mean, I think
Oh, tourism doesn't make money. Don't get me wrong.
yeah,
It's just a way
well,
of
some people
living.
do. No, but I think there's that age old story about the guy who goes fishing, and he's sitting on the beach fishing, and some guy comes along and says, what are you doing? And he says, well, I'm fishing. And the guy says, well, don't you want to go and achieve stuff? And I don't know the whole story, but go and achieve stuff and do whatever else. And he says, no, not really. And the story goes that the other guy says, well, he wants to go and make millions of money and come back and buy a beach house and then sit on the beach and fish. And the guy says, well, that's what I'm doing already. So it depends how you look at money and wealth and collecting all of that. And sure, it's important. But for me, in my life now, I've been looking for something to do that really means a lot to me and gives me joy. And I think if I can impart that on the people that come through on our Camino, then I've also succeeded, yeah. And I think people need to find more joy in their lives. But I think commerce is good, and I think capitalism is good, and I think people earning money doing whatever they do is good. But having said that, if I might just add this, is that the philosophy I have in starting this business is, we've started it from nothing in Plett, and I believe that a rising tide raises all boats, and so my commitment has been to try and hire and use services from local communities and things as much as we possibly can. And it's fascinating to see how that unfolds. And in our last Camino, in the last week, we put 25,000 rand directly back into the community in terms of guides. We got there's some guys who make sticks, beautiful walking sticks for us. There are various other things that we put back. It was about 25,000 rand. I keep a list of it.
Yeah.
And that's before accommodation and before the food and before a whole lot of things, So the money, getting back to the money's spread around. And it's really beautiful to see how it can come in. We channel it in and then spread it through all the various services that come our way. And it's really cool.
It is, really cool. And it's something that people don't always realize. And I think this COVID was kind of an eye-opener to some people, where obviously one of the industries that got hit the hardest, if not the hardest, was tourism. And and immediately you could see, like, the people that have these guest houses that usually go buy from the supermarkets, they are no longer buying in bulk like they used to try and feed the people that stay there. So there's a direct impact in that. And like you said, there's various other things, like these guys that have their little stalls on the side of the road. It's generally tourists especially from overseas, that come by these little figures that they make, or people coming up from Joburg down to the Cape to come get to the beach. They see these nice little ornaments, and you want to take something home to remember the beach by. It's going out to a restaurant at night. The locals aren't just enough. It's the people that come in from far away. They might not be at a guest farm where they get dinner. Then they go out to the restaurants, and especially the fancy restaurants. There's 2 fancy restaurants that closed down in Oudtshoorn because the locals just didn't go to the fancy restaurants. We went to the plain, simple, standard restaurants.
Yeah.
So it's a very big impact that tourism has on the area, and not just the people working like for a specific company. It spreads out eventually.
It's huge, it's huge. And a business like ours is a destination-based business, because, it's not like, firstly, you have to book up front. And, with bookings filling up, you got to book way in advance, like, I know, for instance, the Otter Trail, they're booking a year or 2 in advance. You can't get a slot. So it's something you have to plan. And so you're bringing people into the area, as opposed to someone waking up one day while they're on holiday saying, I'm going to go and hike for 5 days.
Exactly.
So you're bringing people in, and just in restaurants alone, so in accommodation alone, we've spent lots and lots of money on that. But in restaurants, on each Camino, we do a wine tasting at Packwood Wine Estate.
Oh yeah,
where we do wine tasting and lunch. Yeah, we do wine tasting and lunch. Absolutely divine. We do a wine tasting at K and Monty. We do a lunch at Down to Earth Restaurant. So we also impacting those businesses, and that also impacts people who's serving you and their tips and their things. So it's just kind of adding back into the environment. And I mean, I love that. I love that about this business is it's really ours is a funnel where we collect and spread it all out, you know.
And
So it's
sorry,
a cool story.
that
Yeah.
exactly. And what I think, or not think, it's fact. But something that I really strive to is if you have a company like us, I have my own company as well. We do meerkat tours in Oudtshoorn. So if you're ever in the area, let
Yeah.
me know and we'll hook you up. Come join
I
us.
certainly will.
But
Certainly.
the guides, so my guides go through quite a bit of training. It's usually 2 to 3 months before they actually do their first tour, right?
Yeah.
And the thing is, I really want they do backup before that, but before they really start doing a full tour on their own, it's 2 to 3 months minimum. Some guides take up to 6 months before they're ready. And also, like you said, I like to take some of the locals in and try and use them where I can. People that have
Yeah.
no guiding experience, and that's something I noticed. Just to divert quickly, is I always said no because I pride myself in trying to do or trying to speak English to a higher degree. Right, I try and use big words when I'm doing tours, trying to sound fancy, and unfortunately, not
Do
everyone
you?
is.
Can you teach me some?
It has to be in a specific region because I'm an Afrikaans boy. I grew up Afrikaans. So if I'm talking about snakes, I go and look up some big words regarding snakes, snake venom, toxins, and so on, and then you talk about that. And I've realized that it's kind of taboo to talk about tips, but me with my I want to talk big English, and then the guy next to me that's just doing plain old talking broken
Yeah.
English, he ends up having a more enjoyable tour than I do. His clients love his tour
Yeah.
more than I do because they come to South Africa for this experience. And thinking about it, when you go to Germany, you can't expect everyone to speak fluent English in a your local accent. It's not normal. You go to Germany, you got to expect them to be having a German accent and struggle to talk English. Or wherever I'm using German as an example, but wherever you go, if it's
For sure.
a country with a foreign language, so yeah,
Yeah.
so by now language is not an issue for me. If the guy speaks broken English, he speaks broken English. I'm happy with that. But
Well, it's
the
funny you bring it up then. I
yeah,
mean, I think I personally, you know, I think you make a mistake trying to be fancy in English and whatever else. You just need to be yourself.
oh definitely, I realize that.
Um, we've got some fabulous guys. They come from all different backgrounds, and you know we've put them through first aid courses and various other things.
Mm,
Um, and the guests love them just the way they are, you know. And as I say, they come from all different backgrounds.
yeah,
Um, and for us, it's really about building the team. You know, that's more than anything else. And the thing about team members is they each have different skills. You know, you can't, as I say, you can't play drafts with people where they all behave the same. You
mm,
know, you got to play chess with them. Um, and our guests love our guides. You know, and they've all got their own different personalities and knowledge and various things. And and it's also interesting. I've got one guy called Warren. He's a stunning young guy, and he's got a real kind of he's like, you know, those friends you have um who are really funky, like they like naturally cool.
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? They like dress cool, just naturally without trying.
Even have the
Um,
swagger.
yeah, he's one of those guys, man. He'll come, he'll have a scarf on, or he'll have a bandana on, or whatever, and he's like natural. You know, it's really cool to see. So yeah,
It's really and it took me some time to realize this. So it's something I'd like to put out there is just like you said, be yourself. Don't try and be fancy. Don't try and sound smart. It's just not it. But where I want to go to is I have a high standard of information that I want to have transferred into the people, and it's not just beneficial for me because if all companies do that, if we have high quality tours everywhere. And the visitors that visit us, no matter where they're from, if they're just from another province in South Africa, if they're from a local country bordering South Africa, or if they're from overseas, if they come here and they enjoy the experience, word of mouth gets out there, and
Yeah.
more people will start coming in, which is then again beneficial to not just people in tourism, but as we've discussed, the branches going downwards. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
so that's kind of why I like to have a high quality tour, high quality information, and then just your general manner of the staff. It's it's beneficial to not just the one company that they work for, but for everyone. So it's really interesting to have that. And like you said, you still need to be yourself. You still have to have fun.
Yeah.
You have guides that they have the weirdest sayings, and people enjoy it so much. And I'm thinking they're like, what the hell is this guy doing? But you look at the enjoyment on the people's
Well, I've had
faces.
that too.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
you look at the
I've had that as
enjoyment of
well.
the staff, the clients, and you're like, well, let him do it. Let him do it. You had it as well, similar experience?
Yeah, I have. I have.
Uh,
Um, but yeah. I I I really think that you need to let people be themselves, and including the guests.
mm,
So as I said, you can't impose stuff on the guests. Like, for instance, if we did a meditation every day before we went out, as an example. I mean, I meditate every day,
mm,
and would love to get the guests to put them in the forest and do a sort of 20-minute meditation before you go. But some people might not like that. One of the other things we're looking at is do some barefoot walking for a while through the forest so you can ground.
nice.
Um, and maybe people don't want it. Maybe it's a bit cold now. So you don't want to force things on people, and you want to give them options. And so yeah, I just try and let people be themselves. It's far easier, and it's far more complimentary to who they are.
Yeah. It's
Like,
all about giving
who are
the
you?
opportunity. They need to have the
Yeah,
opportunity to be themselves. If they want to do barefoot, go barefoot. You don't want to, it's normal.
yeah, yeah.
Don't look at it funny.
And the thing about guides though is guides are vital to the experience of the guests. A guide isn't just tracking you through a forest. I mean, he can see things, know things, and things that you would never know. And funny enough, I learn every day when I go through the forest. I learn new things. And I'll give you an example if you like, if we've
Go
got
for it.
time.
No, go for it. I'm not in a rush.
Okay, we were walking through the forest the other day actually, and there was a tree. There were two trees next to each other, and they were tall and thin and about this big, wide.
Yeah.
Anyway, and they were quite tall and bare. The barks were very bare. I didn't know about these trees, and one of our guides said, have a look. He said there are two trees next to each other. He said, feel the one. And so I did, and I don't know if you know this tree. I felt the one, and it was coldish, like a normal tree would be in that time of day in the forest. And then he said, feel that one. And so we felt that tree, and it was ice cold, almost like it almost felt like, you get those beers on taps where
Yeah,
the tap
yeah.
is like really cold. It was like that. And I was like, that's so weird. And he said, yeah, he said that specific tree is always colder, but by a long way than the others. And we actually took a photograph of it. It was fascinating, and I look forward to seeing those trees again. So when we walk, we can show guests that as an example. And there's so many secrets in the forest that you just need to be open to learning about them. It's fascinating, and I think that was the Cape Plane tree. I
Cape
think,
Plane Tree. I'll go look it
yeah,
up.
I think it's the Cape Plane tree, but I might be wrong. So
Yeah.
don't quote me. Don't.
We'll
I
look
don't
it
want
up.
people writing and saying, "What do you know?"
We're just people. No, it's
Yeah.
awesome. It's really interesting. I've never heard of that, and I'd really be interested in the
Reason
science
why?
behind it. Yeah, the reason why. Because thinking off the top of my head, the only thing is that I can think of is so the trees have this. I don't know what it is in English. So psyllium and phloem bases. It's like the veins of the tree. Some of them
Yeah.
transport food, and some of them transport
Capillaries.
capillaries. There we go. So it might be that
Yeah.
this tree has capillaries really close to the surface, close to the bark, or in the bark, obviously. But then, if the capillaries are really big and there's a lot of moisture available, it can cool down in the wind a bit more. But I don't, like I said, this is me spitballing in my brain, and
No, no, the answer. I'll send you a
I'm really
picture.
wrong.
I'll send you. I'll send you a photo. I've actually got a picture of one of the ladies holding both.
Yeah, definitely. I want to have a look at
Comparing.
see it.
So she's holding both and comparing the difference, and it's like a remarked difference. It's not like just a little bit.
Hectic. No, I
It's
actually had
almost
no idea.
identical. Yeah.
All
See,
right.
we can teach even fancy guides like yourself. We can teach you something
Oh,
here
I am far from a
on our
fancy
Plett
guide.
Camino.
I'm far from any fancy guide. And like you said, certain guys specialize in certain things. So I specialize more towards snake spiders and creepy crawlies when I work.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
my reasoning behind that is just everyone loves nature, everyone loves animals until there's a snake in your house and you end up killing the snake because it's
yeah.
in your personal space where there are other options available. Or a spider, vacuum the spider, kill the spider, use Doom. So, just in my opinion, I feel like those were the animals that needed the most attention, and I've spent a lot of time trying to educate people, teach people, have them handle rain spiders, have them handle certain spiders, and then sharks has been a big fascination of mine for the last say 10 or
Oh,
so years when I started surfing. I had my first great white experience out at Kerbooms, and I went from total panic, and there was three older gentlemen with me, of which one very very well known surfer in the Plate area, Jeff Westwood, really nice guy, and he was with me, and to see him how he reacts, get calm, and then just carry on. And after the shark had left the area, we carried on surfing, which to me I was like, no, no, no. But to see
yeah.
that from the older generations and realize, you know what, they've been doing it longer than I have. I need to accept that. And yeah, it was so cool. So yeah, from there on, I had this big fascination with sharks as well. And one of my big dreams is actually I've swam with, well, surfed with sharks quite a bit. Obviously, there's loads of them in the area. You don't always see them. Sometimes we do see them. But one of my big goals is to go out and actually swim with real sharks, not like a little lemon shark or something.
Yeah.
Something like a tiger shark, something like a, I would risk it as far as a great white, but there's certain people that I would trust. There's a female researcher in the shark industry, Ocean Ramsey, and she goes and she swims with these massive great whites, like the biggest great white on
Yeah.
record, and she'll swim with them.
She's in Nassau or somewhere. She's in the States somewhere, isn't she?
Yeah, but I
Yeah, I've
mean, if
seen
I had the
videos of her.
opportunity,
Mm.
that's really cool to. My whole brain says if someone else can do it, I can do it too. All right. But there's knowledge and background to it. So that's why I said if I can get with someone like her that does it on a regular basis. There's a guy, a local South African researcher, Dicky. He's also really good, but I haven't seen him swim with the great whites much. And I also don't think South Africa is the best place to do it because of our waters not being as clear. You want to have a good visual on the sharks to see their body language to interpret what's going to happen. But body language for when approaching any animal is really important. So yeah,
Yeah,
having a,
it's definitely about the vibes. Eh? So if you're putting out vibes of fear and whatever, I mean, even with horses, you'll find that.
yeah,
But there's a saying that say good fences make good neighbors. And I must say, when it comes to great whites, I wouldn't mind a fence between me and the shark. But I must tell you a stunning story of diving with sharks is off the south coast of Durban. There's an area where you can dive with the raggies.
oh nice,
Yeah, during certain parts of the year when they come in for breeding. And I've got a stunning video, and it was one of my highlights of my scuba diving career. Was we went down, and I was with my brother at the time, and a whole lot of friends, and we went down, and we dived in a particular cave called Raggy Cave, and they're these massive ragged tooth sharks. They are sure they were probably two-ish meters long, maybe more. I don't know. Down there, things always look a bit bigger.
Yeah.
And but they're in this cave and they're circling around, and these wild animals. I mean, if they had to jump at you, it would be so fast you wouldn't know.
Yeah.
Um, but so they're right there, and you kind of you take that for granted. But the camera guy, and this was the beautiful thing, is the camera guy went around, he went over, and he went to the back of the cave, and so the cave was more like an overhang, a big overhang, and there was a gap on the other side, and he came down the other side, and he took photographs. He took a video of myself and my brother sitting on the sand, like lying on the sand, just hovering sort of above it, and watching these raggies. And so you see in the foreground, you see these massive sharks going, and you see my brother and I on the other side, just breathing slowly like you do. And so that was a stunning memory of shark diving.
We've got less than 1 minute left, so just quickly, Plett Camino, you've got a website. Can I post your website on the podcast as well so people can find you?
Yes, please. Yeah. So
100%.
it's www.plettcamino.com. It's the
All right.
.com. And on our socials, you can get us on socials, Plett Camino, on both Instagram, Facebook. And Jan, come and join us. It's a stunning 5 days, and get hold of us, and we'll let you know. In fact, JD, I don't know if it's going to cut us off, but if you want to come and walk one of the Caminos, we have one going where if we want to fill up some places, I'll certainly give you a shout if you'd like to come.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately that meeting got caught off just a little bit short. We just needed a minute or two to end it off, but big thanks to Iain and Plett Camino. If you guys need anything from him, any information, all the links will be down below as well as posted during the video, so give him a shout. Thank you very much, and we'll look forward to seeing you guys on the next one.